Welcome to Spartan Up Podcast. I'd like to introduce Tim Nye, Johnny Waite, Joe Desena, Sefra, who we really don't know what her last name is. But our guest on this one needs no introduction. Paul Teutal, the dad on Orange County Choppers. Everyone knows him, but you're going to find out some things about him you didn't know, including an incredible point he made, why the last thing you want in the world is to be an overnight success.
This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Teeter. Go to teeter.com/Spartan for our special offer.
We are here for Spartan Up Podcast with the man who needs no introduction, Paul from Orange County Chopper. How you doing?
Doing good, especially after today.
Want to talk about choppers, want to talk about what it takes to be successful and happy in life and get shit done. You're a get shit done kind of guy. There's a big audience out there that's saying, Joe, how do we get motivated? How do I get ahead? Should I start my own business? Tell me about your chop. You must have had it really easy. Your parents probably were rich.
No, quite the contrary. Actually, we were far from that. I actually come from a poor family, and growing up was kind of rough, and I never really had much of a education. And I think the one thing that really motivated me the most in life is my father told me that you'll be a failure all your life.
Really?
Yeah, and I think that was, I
kind of
set out to prove him wrong. And I think that has a lot. I think that has a lot to do with my success. It's perseverance. You know what I mean, and not just not accepting the fact that you are that.
How many brothers and sisters?
4 sisters.
4 sisters.
Yeah.
Were they tough?
They were tough. They were tough. I used to get my ass kicked by my older sister, and then I had 3 younger sisters, but they were all tough. My older sister would kick my ass.
Yeah, the sisters are always the tough ones, right?
Yeah.
So from there, you start your own steel business?
Yeah. Actually, yeah. I mean, it's funny because I really didn't really know what I really wanted to do, and so when I got out of school, I did a little bit of carpentry or whatever, and then my brother-in-law had a steel shop, so I went to work for him for a little while, and then I went to another steel shop, and it was lunchtime, and I left, and I said, I'm gonna just do this myself, and I went and bought like a 4-cylinder Hobart welder that a buddy of mine was going to jail, so I bought that from him. My dad had a 66 International truck, and I just hooked it up, and I kind of knocked on doors. I knew people that had hot rods. I would do their exhaust, and then I would go on farms and there's spreaders and welded pretty much anything that I possibly could. And then I'd open up a little shop, and I got into ornamental work like this, and then that was like the beginning.
Where was that?
In Rockland County.
Rockland County.
Yeah.
So where you are now?
I'm in Orange County.
You're in Orange,
yeah,
but
which is
not far.
hour
Yeah.
away. Yeah.
So you never really left that circle?
No, not really. No.
So then what happens? So the business takes off. Pretty easy overnight success.
No. It was really a rough road, especially in the beginning. But the economy was a little bit better then, but it was I kind of just did it. I didn't really know how to make railings. I didn't really know how to do none of that stuff well. But I learned it, and I learned it quick because the one thing that I was never afraid of is work. So I would work. It didn't make any difference. I worked really hard at whatever I did, and a little bit at a time. I went from like a small place and gradually a little bit bigger, and one of the things that really a couple things in my life, but one thing was that I just got a shop that was a decent sized shop, and I was in there working by myself, and the paint, we used to fill a big tank with paint. Because we used to dip our railings.
I think I know where the story's going, but hang on. So, all right, so you got this shop. You got the shop. Explain the paint.
We used to fill we'd take like a 4x8 sheet of plywood and put a 5-inch lip around with angle iron, and we'd fill it, and then we'd dip the railings in there so they get painted all the way through. And we had a certain way of hanging them. And I was grinding, working on the. I was grinding them a little bit, and a spark hit the tank, and the tank lit up. But there was all 5-gallon pails of paint underneath it, and probably in a matter of an hour, it was down to the ground because everything
caught on fire.
Everything caught on fire, and you know, I already had commitments to put railings on houses, so I actually went there the next day. I dragged everything out of there that I possibly could, and I actually took it to my home. I had a 1-car garage, and you know, I cleaned everything off, and I reset up what I needed to do, and I kept my commitment and never, you know, I had a commitment for whether it was a week or whatever to do a couple houses, and I
you got it done.
I got it done, yeah.
And so it sounds like easy. Like your parents were rich, your sister was easygoing, right? Somebody gave you a business, and nothing really happened. That was negative.
Yeah.
So now that the business is getting bigger, what year is this? 70s?
70s, yeah.
Yeah.
72.
72. You probably bought a motorcycle by now.
74.
74, first one?
Yeah. No, I had a 71, I'm sorry, but the first Harley was in 74. I still have it.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then what?
I had a pretty good bout with alcohol and drugs, and but you know, like even through all those periods of time, and it was I was pretty heavy into it. I never wanted to give up what I was doing, so I went to work every day, did what I had to do. But you know, anybody knows anything about that, you can never be, you know, you can't really put everything into that when you're abusing yourself like that.
You could have been doing better with the business.
Much better.
Right.
So then in 1985, I was pretty much on my way out, you know, from the abuse. But, you know, I always say through the grace of God, but I got sober in 1985, which was probably one of the hardest things that I've had to do in life. But
so you're about 35 years old.
35 years old, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, what was real difficult.
What was the trigger? What was the moment that you said, "I'm done"?
You know what? I wish I can say. You know, I'll just say it's the grace of God. I really do, because there was not one particular thing. I knew I was on my way out because, you know, your liver starts going and you're just
not feeling great.
Yeah, you're not feeling great. But you know, I woke up one morning and I was supposed to go to a rehab. That's what it was, and I couldn't do it because I had my business, and as crazy as it was, I wasn't willing to give it up. So I went into a 12-step program, and you know, I went to one meeting and I hated it. You know, it was like all these people they're all losers in here, and but I didn't drink that day. You know, and I went back, and you know, and what was difficult is, you know, all the people that work for me, we all drank every day. So that was a hard obstacle to get past. Yeah.
When you're looking at the people in the program and you're saying all these people are losers, that's just your own. You're saying I'm not a loser, they're losers, but you're in the same boat.
Yeah,
right?
and at some point you get that.
Right.
Yeah, these people are just like you are. They're just not drinking, but you know, when they were probably just doing the same things that you do.
We'll be back to our interview here in a minute, but I just want to take a couple minutes here and talk about Teeter. For those of you listening on iTunes, you can't see it, but I am sitting on a marvelous piece of equipment, an A-frame with like a board that you strap yourself into, and then you rock backwards on it, and you invert yourself, and it stretches out your back. And I tell you, this arrived at my home, a good month or so ago, and I was ecstatic. I'm of the age that I can remember American Gigolo and Richard Gere hung upside down with his gravity boots. And I got to tell you, I needed those boots. I wanted to be that guy hanging upside down. I had no idea, though, all the other benefits as I get older about releasing the tension on the back and the neck and the upper shoulders. And this is just an amazing piece of equipment, really well constructed. And as I say, for those that can't actually see it, you sit on this thing, it's like a standing teeter-totter, you rock back and you fully invert so that your head is toward the ground, your feet are up in the air, and you stretch out, and you just kind of try to take the stress of the day off of that back, your shoulders, your neck. You hang there for a minute or so if you're just starting out. You build up till you can get to 3 to 5 minutes. And it really, I tell you, put this in with your exercise routine, you'll notice immediately it's going to boost your recovery. It's going to help to hydrate your muscles. It does all kinds of things. But I tell you, it's been in my house, like I said, about a month, a little bit more than that. And it's going to be in my house for a very long time because I really like this. So I encourage you, if you want to try this out, you go to teeter.com/Spartan and you can get the Teeter, or you can buy the Teeter, but you can get for free those gravity boots I was talking about, some accessory package. And I tell you, it's about $150 of accessories that you're going to get for free. But you got to go to teeter.com/Spartan. And I tell you, this belongs in your house as well.
But then what did you do with all that that addictiveness? Where'd you apply it to work?
I did. Now you're smarter. You're thinking Clear. Better. And you're not working out of a garage, and you're buying and you're building your own building. But it's still. I think it took a while. It took a while. Because they say you have to change people, places, and things. And I had all these people working for me, and you always feel you always don't want to be that guy because I quit. You have to quit, the preacher, Right,
yeah.
But I think that everything is you lead by power of example,
Yeah.
And that's basically what I did. I just never really, you learn in AA that I just won't drink for today, and that's when they ask me, when my friends would say, well, let's get the bottle because that's what you did every day. And I would just say, you know what, I'm going to do it tomorrow. I didn't want to tell them that I quit drinking. I said, I'll drink with you tomorrow. And then, it's the next day, and the next day, and you got a month, and then you got 2 months, and then, you know what I mean? And it starts adding up, And but it was a rough road. I went to a 12-step program actually for 9 years straight without missing one meeting.
Wow.
Because it's scary,
Yeah.
It's scary out there. So
You're always waking up in the morning thinking, shit, I might fall back today?
Not anymore, you know what I mean?
Right.
Not anymore. I'm pretty fortunate. The odds of getting sober and staying sober, not so good.
Right.
Not so good. But fear keeps me from that, and accomplishment keeps me from that. I don't want to lose, what I have today in friends and family, and
business,
everything,
yeah.
Business.
So and then you broke away and you started this chopper business. And that became an overnight success without much work.
Actually, that's not true. I'll just tell you a little bit about that. Even when I had my steel business, I always loved motorcycles, but the steel business is what paid the bills. And but I always had a bike on the side, and I was always able to do things that people couldn't do because I had torches I could weld. Back then, they didn't have aftermarket parts, so you couldn't buy a lot. You had to make it. So it was really my true passion, even though I loved the steel business. But as my boys got older, and the shop, and we were doing structural steel and whatnot, I said I'm going to open up a little shop downstairs from my steel shop, and maybe do 10 bikes a year, or so. More as a hobby. But what had happened is we started. You good?
I'm good. We're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what happens? I started building bikes, and the next thing you know, there was a dealership that wanted to buy bikes from me. So I started kind of doing more bikes than I wanted to do, but I was happy about it, and almost immediately we were getting on the cover of magazines, and so we kind of knew we had something there. But then the show came along, and then it was an overnight success. Boom, just
overnight.
like that. Crazy.
How do you? Pretty easy to deal with overnight success. Doesn't really disrupt your life much.
Overnight success was probably the most difficult thing that I had to deal with. It was harder than starting a business, because you work hard to get to a place where you really want to be comfortable in life, and so you're constantly do that. Now all of a sudden you have the opposite. Now you have the dam opened up, and all this stuff is coming at you. And really, I was one person. There was nobody, had secretary and workers, but I was really the only guy. So it was like, how do I capture this?
Harness all of it, not waste any opportunity.
And fortunately, I was able to capture most.
And you didn't fall back on the drinking or anything, which is impressive with all that coming at you.
No.
So show's back, which is great. And let's get it down to 3 tips we would give the audience out there. Wake up late.
Have a drink.
Have a drink. And don't work very hard.
Yeah.
What would the 3 tips be? That if you said, look, you want to be successful, that you do these things.
I think part of it, and maybe I'm not putting it in order, but is be a man of your word. Stick to, if you make a commitment, stick to it. And I think that perseverance.
Fire or no fire, stick to it.
Stick to it, man.
Perseverance.
Yeah, perseverance. I think that's important, and not just business, but in daily life in general. And I think we see that here.
See that here.
Yeah.
All right, and wake up early and work hard.
Yeah. Wake up early and work hard. That's the truth.
You're awesome.
Thanks, man.
That was great.
Thanks. Thank you.
What an engaging guy. Watching the interview, listen to it, but I also got a chance to meet him down at Fort Bragg. We took him around the course and took him around and showed him. And he is really what you see on TV is what you get, right? Just a guy who has worked hard his whole life, who kind of stumbled, bumbled, rumbled himself forward, kind of just kept taking those steps and found himself one day, a celebrity in the United States. And he wasn't really prepared for that, right? And that kind of set him back a little bit.
Sure.
But, a humble guy. We were walking through a restaurant. Everybody was I could tell we're staring and everything else. He's got the big mustache. He's a big dude. He's got like 20-inch arms. So people are looking. But he was just as nice. He is what he appears to be. I think sometimes on that show maybe there's a little bit of him yelling. I think maybe it's a little forced because I didn't see any of that. I don't joke.
No, he was very relaxed, and that was the big takeaway for me was how to deal with an overnight success, and he didn't deal with it well. It put a lot of pressure on him and the family.
It's actually a conversation you and I were having earlier, where you said that you're at a race and he's walking around, he's sort of looking at all the obstacles and just checking things out, and you think, I guess he's not that fit. I guess he doesn't want to do this. And then he went by the rope climb, and he looks at it and says, What, I think I'll try this one. You're like, well, do you know how to do it with your feet? He's like, no. And he just grabs it.
He did. He went up without his legs.
He said, then it's pretty much grip strength. He goes, I've bent steel my whole life. And just went hand over hand, 60-some years old, straight to the top of the rope line.
Yeah.
He asked you, he said, who's the oldest guy to go up or whatever? He said, well, I'm 67. And he went up, and again, he is not a small guy.
No, he's a big
guy. His work boots probably weighed 10 pounds.
And he didn't use his legs, so it was a lot of upper arm. But anyway, what we were talking about, not being prepared for success and then the pressures that put. Some of the other podcasts we've done, when pressure comes, it breaks up families. It causes all kinds of issues. And he was on a reality TV show with cameras in front of the family. And so arguing, you have normal family dynamics, and then you have, direction of the company you want to go, and then artistic kind of disagreements within the family, and really hard. But he fought through all of that. He kind of set back, lost the show, and now the show is back on there going in for another dip in the pool, kind of.
One of the things that we guys are often guilty of, and there's a lot of attention paid to it now, is feeling this need to be perfect and not being able to be vulnerable and putting our best foot forward.
You guys are all perfect.
Well, no, but here's a guy who's had success. Now he's being interviewed. And I think the expectation, the tendency is just to tell you how he's been successful, tell you how great he is. And here's a guy who said, here's where I failed, here's where I've been challenged, here's daily struggle I go through.
Yeah, he was incredibly honest about his past, right? I mean, he had a drug and alcohol problem, and he worked through that. And we talked about the 12-step, which is very Spartan, right? Just put one foot in front of the other. Deal with today.
Day to day, yeah. And the other thing that's very Spartan is, and bring it to others, right? And I should say very much the 12-step program. It's the 12-step, but it's also very much what this is about. You come out and you do this. You see people walking behind us. We're actually at the European Championships, Spartan race. And if you're wondering, they don't look very Spartan walking.
Area,
they've just come off a climb that is
a couple thousand feet.
unimaginable how high they're going. So if they look a little bit smoked, they are. But the idea that they're going to go home, they're going to tell somebody else what they just did, and that person's going to want to do it, right? So when you're successful, when you broke through challenges, when you found a new place to stand, it's also human nature to turn to other people and want to help them get there too.
I mean, I didn't watch that much TV growing up, but I remember seeing Orange County Choppers and just always loving those guys because it's kind of like the same sort of thing. Like there's like a gruff leadership, you know, like they seem to be all rough and tumble, but they're these same guys that you could just like rub their belly and they're so sweet and you can tell how much love there actually is.
I think Sefra rubs old guys' bellies more than we do.
Anyway, no, my point is like I think the most important part was Johnny, you're so annoying. But the most important thing that I think I found is like, you know, he's a guy's like, this is where I live. I went from this county to this county. You know, it's like a very you make yourself known, you make yourself a part of a community, you make yourself a big figurehead. And then, yeah, he does take day by day by day, and he has these, like, you know, goals that are very feasible for him to set, and he gets past those mile markers, and that's been really successful for him. And so I think in the face of that overnight success, even though it was just like a total wash, some of the patterns that he's instilled from other things, he's able to apply to it, and he's able to come out on top, and he's an artist.
But he also talked about, or it was implied, but I think he talked about it, is trust, right? Is that when he was going around and he lost his shop and it was burned down and he had to pull all the equipment out, he still had commitments, and he still had one-on-one relationships, that jobs he had to do. Yeah. And people trusted him to get it done, and they kept coming to him over and over and over again.
Integrity, yeah.
And even now,
he's a man of his word.
Companies, organizations have bikes built by him, and he gets into a lot of the bikes he's doing are for charity builds, special needs people, those kinds of things. So again, we see it over and over and over again. People who have achieved, and then there's that next layer.
Well, and that's the difference of actually getting things done, right? How many people in a day will promise you a monkey and a unicorn and a 3-ring circus?
Zero.
You never.
I haven't met one yet.
Happens to me all the time. It's a rare and beautiful day when someone is a man of their word, and when they say something, they get it done. When they say they're going to do it, that's becoming a more 100%. Rare and rare quality.
Yes, we agree.
And so,
and I think
I
he
honor
lives
that,
that,
and that gets you far.
I think he lives
with that.
With that, go ahead, take us out of here.
Yeah, please. I can't handle this anymore.
Trust us.
Trust
us. We'll be back.
And
trust us that we're going to bring you great guests week after week. You know, this is a big one. This is a big name. But honestly, every week you're going to learn stuff.
And get a monkey and a unicorn every week.
Apparently, I promise.
And a one-shoed racer. Good job.
This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Teeter. They've been the best-known name in inversion tables since 1981. Go to teeter.com/Spartan for our special offer.
Thanks for listening to another epic story of success. If you like our show, be sure to tell your friends about it. We want to hear from you. Just leave us a comment below if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening, go to Twitter and find us at Spartan Up Pod or Instagram at Spartan Up Podcast, and let us know what you think. Then go subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you listen to our show. Spartan Up is brought to you by Spartan Race. To find a race near you, visit Spartan.com.